Howdy, Ags. Welcome to the post-game reaction. Not the one that I wanted to be bringing you tonight. Everybody knows that. But I am here to get through this with you. I am going to do my best to temper myself, but I think this is going to be a bit of a fiery one because, like you, I'm upset. I think that's one of the reasons why we all come here and do this is because we all kind of see things very similar on this and we want the best. You know I'm here for the Kool-Aid, but the fact of the matter is the Kool-Aid has run dry. And so my second purpose here is to just bring the truth. Bring the truth as best as I can. And before we get into this, you know I like to be real with my criticism. I've made no bones about it because I think it's the only way to grow. I think knowing the truth is the only way that you have to see things in a way that's going to make you better. All that comes with love. All of it comes with love. My criticism is not aimed at downgrading anybody, but that's the way it needs to be. The first truth of the matter is, and I'm going to get this right, is that Appalachian State played one hell of a game. They are a senior team, a very well-practiced team, a very gritty team. You got to have respect for that team. That is one heck of a team. Having said that, the preview for this game was based entirely on what should have taken place. We should have won that game. We played that poorly and we're out 3 points on that game. I had the defensive effort pegged at 17 and the offensive effort was just horrendous, and we all know that. So let's go ahead and get into this with some quick hitters. And I'm just going to start off with this, and it's youth and leadership. This is a very youth-filled team, even for some of the experienced guys, like Fathery, who played last year. We've still got quite a bit of youth all over. So who's the leader, though? Who in particular on offense? Who is the leader on offense? Is it King? Is it Ananias? Is it a Chain? I don't really see a leader on offense. Do you? I have not noticed a leader. No leader has really far and away said, this is mine. So I'm waiting on that, to be honest. I think that's one of the reasons why I thought that, not the top reason, but one of the reasons why Max might be that, because he had experience. And I think these youngins need somebody right now that has experience, who can get out there, who can be calm and cool and collected and lead this team. I just not seeing it right now out of King, along with some other things. So let's get into that. And this is where the concerns are going to get started ramping up. Okay, they're going to be a little bit subtle. I'll try and make sense of them at the end, but I'm not going to go full bore on any predictions and anything like that. But I will allude to them. So, complacency is supposed to be defeated by competition. I've been told this. I've heard it multiple times. You know where it's been said. Okay. My question is each job actually online, and when is it online? When is it on the line? Is it on the line every practice, every week? Has it been decided? If that's not possible, and if the job's not on the line, then competition cannot stamp out complacency. It's impossible. It would be facilitating it, by the way. So, why is that happening? Is that available? We don't really know, because we're not on the other side of the line on this one. But that's a question I've got. It's a major question I've got. Now, moving on with this idea, what expectation do I have that King will be better next game? If the answer to that is none, then we've established that he didn't. We have established that he didn't beat App State, and basically we're operating from the bottom of the barrel. And if we're operating from the bottom of the barrel, what expectation do I have that he will be better next week? Like I said, if that's none, then it's time to move on. Okay? So, there should be no reason we don't see a change. I'm not saying specifically at quarterback, and I'll get to the change even more later on, but we should see a change on Saturday. Okay? What that is going to be up in the air at this point. We won't know until next Saturday. It's actually the number one reason to watch next week, in my opinion, is to see what the change is. Because I guarantee you that change will be taking place. 100% guarantee you. We'll talk more on that here in a little bit. Some more quick hitters. 18 and a half minutes to 41 and a half minutes time of possession is a heart stopper. 38 plays of offense is a myocardial infarction for me. Those two stat lines are something I just never thought we were going to see. And that plays into some of our problems. They may be bred by some of our problems as well, but that's a major issue. And the defensive effort that we had to put forth in the fourth quarter, I'm sure, was magnanimous, I think that's a word, right? To be able to hold them like we were able, even though it wasn't 100%. That was a difficult job. Moving on, 97 yards passing, 89 yards rushing for 186 total yards of offense. What else do you say that besides unacceptable? And there's lots of reasons why this took place. We got to come back to King in a little bit. We gave up 134 yards passing, 181 yards on the ground for a total of 315. Not a lot of yards, okay? Oddly enough, we averaged more yards per pass and per carry than they did. But we only ran 38 plays, I think, to their 80. But they were 9 of 20 on third down. I mean, almost 50%, and 3 of 5 on fourth. We were 2 of 8 on third, and we didn't have any tries on fourth. So, again, I'm working real hard to be tempered here. But these issues, in my opinion, are systemic. They are not quite a one switch kind of situation. Like you don't just need to switch out the quarterback or something like that. Like I know that's a very easy target, and there's issues. I want to talk about those specifically, but it's more systemic. There are scheme issues, personnel issues, game plan issues, and I'm going to camp out maybe on a few of these, but let's talk scheme first. Just some simple stuff. How many guys are we getting in the box? Should we run 2 high safeties? I bet you didn't think I was going to quite come out on the defensive side of things, did you? Because when we're thinking about where we really need to address, we're kind of thinking about offense, and there's plenty of that to go around too. But it's kind of a big deal, especially when you think about what they were doing. What was their game plan? So think about the questions they were going to ask. How are they going to play us? We got a big offensive line. We got a dynamic running back. We got a fast quarterback. He should be able to run, right? That was the scouting report, was it not? So they loaded the box with 7 to 8 players almost all night long. And you think we were going to run the ball well on that? How did we call plays against that? You remember the I think it was about 11 minutes to go in the fourth, and we had that fumble. Haynes King was trying to pitch to a chain, and there was a fumble. We came up with a fumble, right? But the whole thought process was that, well, he should have just taken that one. Somebody broke through the offensive line like there was no one there. Well, in part, there was no one there because we couldn't account for every single one of them. We were outgunned in that situation. Our guns might have been bigger, but they had more of them, and that means a lot. I mean, we're running two high safeties almost all game long, and whenever I looked, and I went back and watched every play probably close to 4 times. If we were even in the box, I think we won 90% of the time from what I counted. 90% of the time we won on defense if we were even in the box. When we weren't even in the box, it was almost a flip, and we handily lost probably 50% of the time. And sometimes just keeping them on schedule would have been maybe considered a win. We did have some issues with recognition. There was a couple times a QB pulled or he pulled and then passed, and we just stayed inside. And they were able to get outside on us, and that was one of the touchdowns that the quarterback ran for. So pretty decent effort on defense based off of some contextualized situations. Let's transfer over to personnel for a second, though, because this is a second systemic issue that could be an issue. I don't know. I'm not on the other side of the line, right? But how often are guys getting in the film room? You know, are they putting in substantial time, reasonable time? I don't know. I also don't know that if they're not, how readily it's being allowed. And you can see by that statement what I'm kind of pushing at a little bit here. If it's being allowed. I don't know if it's being allowed. I don't suspect actually that this is quite the issue. You know, I watched the edges of the offensive line quite a bit. Zune struggled mightily. It looked like he was playing on his heels a lot, and that defensive end was coming at him and just kind of squaring up. And he was backpedaling and really letting that guy get a running start before he engaged him in contact, and it was really collapsing the pocket pretty hard. Of course, that does not help out Haynes King, but that's something that we hadn't seen out of Zune yet. Fatheree actually had a few issues like that himself, and then I even saw a couple issues out of Layden and Aggie. Wyckoff looked like a pretty decent game overall, probably better than last game, aside from the high snaps. He got those under control towards the end of the third quarter, it looked like, and was doing much better. So that's good. I've heard Foster's going to be back this next week. I think that means he's going to be playing, and I'm wondering if we can't maybe move Wyckoff out to guard. I'm seeing some decision making by Aggie that I'm a little bit worried about. Although Zune struggling, I wonder whether or not we have anybody to even replace that, so I'm not sure that's an option at this point. But like I said, let's circle back around to game plan, because like I said, they were loading 7 to 8 in the box, and that's just I mean, they trusted their DBs all night long on man, and they're a veteran team, so when they played zone, they got a little bit better result, although we had some success when they were playing zone. But how are we going to play them? And when let's talk defense first. We played 6 in the box most of the time. Like I told you, when it was even, we won on defense. We played the 2 high safeties nearly all day long, and we rarely got any more than 6 guys within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage inside the tackles. And then what adjustments did we make for our game plan? I didn't see many of these adjustments. Maybe on occasion. We have a good group of DBs. I think it would be a good idea to harness this. Probably be something that we'd want to utilize. We'll get to that in the diagnosis part of this situation. So, common thing that's been floating around there is potential, and you've heard a lot about potential. Players being selected based off of potential. Here's my thoughts on potential. You can have all the potential in the world. Potential is everything that you haven't done. It's everything you haven't done. You cannot live in potential at the expense of ability. Go ahead. Do that, and you may find yourself in exactly the same circumstance we're in right now. I'm not saying that's exactly the reason. There's lots of reasons why we had the result on Saturday, but this is one that we've got to get out of our head. We have got to focus on ability. And this gets back to our youth. We're running some complicated things on offense, scheme-wise. Reads need to be made. They're not getting made by receivers, linemen, where blocks need to be made, these kinds of things. We have a lot of youth that, when going up against senior teams, are struggling. So we have to know what we do well and what we don't. And then we've got to play to the strengths. I mean, it's a pretty simplified outlook for my diagnosis for what has to happen with this team right now. We've got to simplify things. We cover too well, but we're young. Man is much easier for youth. It's very simple. It's very straightforward, and we do it well. This would allow us to pin our ears back with the linebackers and defensive line. We could run and pass blitz, and just know that we've got something. We're going to constantly bring pressure and let our DBs work. They're good enough to work. So, I mean, how is anybody going to run on us when we're +1 in the box? If we're doing well when it's even, if we're +1, I mean, where's that going? Very frustrating. So schematically, we've got to adjust. I think this is probably the biggest place that we need to adjust this in our scheme. But it really overlaps a lot with the game plan, though, too. Like, what are we doing on that team specifically? We knew that they were going to. It was said right here, they're going to run 6 linemen, and they did all day long. And we many times ran 3 down linemen. We had maybe 5, 6 guys hovering around the line of scrimmage, but we just kind of made it a little bit easier for them to scheme us. And then we're supposed to be opening up the playbook. That's what you get, but the reality is that we're running very vanilla plays. Very, very, very vanilla plays, and we want to execute those plays. Well, you can execute those plays, but does it really matter how well you execute against 8 guys? You got to think about all the things that come up with this. When we've got guys 10 yards off the line of scrimmage, and then they're finally moving up and they're getting met. They're meeting the ball carrier, let's say around the 4 or 5 yard mark, or 3 yard mark, and then he's falling forward. That's so much better than getting met at the 1 and then making 3, and or bringing so many that you're making contact in the backfield that often. I mean, they're bringing 8. How are we play calling to minimize that effect? Well, I guess there could be some audibles, there could be some changes. That does not look like that's what's happening to me, and there's no real-time reads taking place. So I think schematically and game plan wise, we're just going to have to simplify, make it as simple as possible for the youth to go out and do what they do well. But having said that, I think that will help out tremendously from week to week in 1 week to mitigate a lot of the problems that we're having, although it will not take care of all of them. Some of the issues I still mentioned about offensive line, those are gonna persist. But like for instance, when we ran zone on the defense, our guys tend to move away from that zone towards the end, which ends up leaving a receiver open, especially when the quarterback gets outside of the pocket. And so when we're just floating, I mean, even when we're floating 6 or 7 guys back there, and they're running 6 down linemen, so they're able to withstand our pass rush for a little bit longer than they might have been able to with only the 5, then they're able to find somebody. And that's what happened a lot on 3rd down. So there's got to be some change there to make that easier. And that's on our coaches. So let's talk outlook now. And going off the 2 games, it's not good. It's just not good, and it's flipped. We talked about possibly having the potential for 10-2, and it's completely the opposite way around. It is that bad. We might only win 1 more game this year. It could be 2-10 this year. The Minutemen may be the only other team that we beat. I'm sorry to say that, but running it the way we're doing it at this moment, does that sound like it's crazy? I don't think it is, and I think that's the reality of this. The upside is probably as is, based on ability. This is not based off potential, based off of ability. We're looking at a bowl game at best at this point. I mean, who are we going to beat with that offense? I don't know many. We're not beating Alabama. We're not beating Florida. The teams that are down, it's going to be a knockdown dragout. If we can do anything at all, I mean, we're struggling to score 7 points on offense here, so that's not going to win you very many games. That defense is good, but whenever our offense is so anemic, how is our defense going to withstand that the entire game like it is? We can't play 40 minutes all season long every game. That's not going to work. So if potential turns into ability, then we can adjust the prediction. Until then, I see no reason to change it. Potentially, we could still go 11-1. The potential's there. The issue for me is, what's the likelihood of that happening? What's the probability of going 11-1? What's the likelihood that we make a change? Jimbo said he considered the change, and he's considered moving over to Max. But I just don't think I can stomach another anemic drive, to be quite honest. So I'm glad to hear that he said that, but it's one thing to say it and another thing to do it. Final thought is, I'm not concerned about change. I'm here for the change whenever it needs to happen, and I will guarantee you that change will happen. I'm not worried about whether or not change will happen. We will see some changes. The question is who or what and when. Okay? So you can take that how you want to take that. But I sure hope it's the what that needs to change, and the when is now. But we'll find out Saturday. Until then, gig 'em.